about how body language is important in conveying information. And again, I was appalled actually. They showed us pictures of slides. You know, one example was, depending on, according to this training, so it's not me, but for a woman to cross her arms and lean forward is a threatening gesture, and then there are threatening gestures that men make where they're trying to assert their dominance. You know, and one of them was like slouching in your chair with your legs spread apart. And one of the participants in the class said that again, one of our high level people had been sitting like that in a room where she was a participant in the meeting, and she was very offended. And you know, I was appalled at that kind of behavior. And I personally would consider it extremely disrespectful toward myself also. So I thought that was worth sharing. Thank you.
Great on time. As a little kid, we played Cowboys and Indians. And I was always a cowboy. I had my cowboy hat, my guns, my 6-shooter. You know, my friends would do that for hours. I used to watch a show named, I think it was Bonanza, and watch the Cowboys and Indians. And I was the one, I thought I was the cowboy rooting against the Indians. I wanted to shoot the Indians. As I got older, I had to ask myself, why was I rooting against the Indians? Native Indians. Why was I rooting against them? That's a deep question. And as I got older, I realized I was the Indian. I was rooting against myself because I didn't see anything positive of color in my mind. I thought I was the cowboy, but it wasn't my story to tell. When I see talk about immigration into this country being limited, I wonder, because as we know, this country is browning. It's browning. And immigration unabashed, 100 years ago was okay. We want everybody to come in. We want to build this country. Okay, but wait a minute. We've had an African American as president, and people of color are becoming in power. That may not have been the intention. So now, and don't get it twisted, legal immigration, in some eyes, some of this administration, they want to limit legal immigration into this country, which is sad. Because like you talked about earlier, Sweet, it is important. This country was built on immigrants and diversity. So why do we want to limit it now? When you hear this talk, well, Muslims did this, or and it is the same tactic that was used against my people, the other, the dangerous, be scared. They're gonna attack you. They're gonna take your purse, or whatever the case may be. That's what's happening. It's the other. See, I know my history, and I know it when I see it. When they say, well, Muslims are bad. Okay, really? Really? Okay. Don't be fooled. As I mentioned earlier, having Barack Obama in that White House changed things for me. And being able to see that, it did something. And I would imagine in the eye of a kid of color, it made it possible. Some dream, some goal, possible. Because once you see it, and unfortunately, and this is not a knock to anybody, but there is a lot of cultural conditioning that in a kind of a silent way says that people of color are less than, maybe not as smart, or dangerous. And you have to be careful. You don't want to live next to someone of color. And that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, and I understand that. I had a boss when I was getting hired for this job. It was January of 1988, and I went to my boss at work. Nice guy. I had known him for a while, and he said, "I said, I'm going to put in my 2-week notice if I got a really good job with this man." And he said, "Oh, Mark, great. So you're going to live like white folks." Ready to go. I was ready to go at that point. But it was just a thought, how he thought about me. And I hadn't done anything wrong. I just did my job. So, let's be mindful of diversity. Santa Claus is not white. He's whatever color you want him to be. Kids should know that. And the optic is important. Media. We talked about the Black Panther. I'll make this short. And you said something, I don't know if it was you, Sweet, or you, Tracy, and you talked about either women of power. And in that movie, there were powerful women in that movie, and the men were not intimidated by the powerful women. And it's just a make-believe movie, but it's just the optic. Let's keep this in the back of my mind. And the optic. So, thank you. Have a few minutes. What were the time constraints on that?
Okay. Set the thing. All right. I have no real good idea about my own, but Sweet was 2 minutes 58, so really close to that green light. Waji was 3 minutes 4 seconds. Priscilla 3:15. Actually, it's growing. Paul 3 minutes 43. Ferris 2 minutes 49. Carl 4 minutes and 45 seconds, and Mark for 5 minutes and 9 seconds. But yeah, on average, I think we did just.
I think, Tracy, you're about 210, 220, somewhere in that range. We have about 10 minutes. Does anybody have any thoughts, comments for us? Anything? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, this is trivia, but
yeah, go ahead.
I have one more memory of. I was involved in 4-H as a kid, and then I became leader of just one summer, Sacramento Focus. We now call it California Focus, but anyway, it was about government and citizenship and things like that. Part of the trip included a tour, like on a bus, and we had one guy who was probably about my age, and he was really good though, like knowing a lot of information. He pointed out as we're going by, I think it was the Renaissance Tower or the Emerald Tower, the Wells Fargo building, but I think it was Wells Fargo, and he pointed out and he said that building was designed by a woman. And all these people on the bus cheered their heads off, and he's like, well, now, if you were really not sexist, that wouldn't have mattered.
Right.
So, I think in my dreams at some point, it's just cool that everybody's in one place or has one goal or whatever it is instead of, where we all come from. But that just enriches it. But anyway, that's all I want to say about that.
Awesome. I like that. All right. Any other final thoughts, or maybe somebody had a spark in their mind that they wanted to kind of bring up? Anything? Any thoughts? Oh, Paris, go ahead.
I just wanted to share going off what you said. When I was in middle school, it was the season right before the election that Obama was running in, and our school had a mock election, and Obama won by a landslide between the students. And I thought that was related to what you said, like the students actually saw someone that represented color, and that's why he won by landslide. Sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other last comments?
Yeah,
Spur,
just
yeah.
a thought.
Go ahead.
So like it's funny, right? Combined family in different sites, and mainly it's a topic that we try to avoid at Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas, like politics, talking about politics and stuff like that. I just noticed, like, even with like friends or sometimes with the coworkers and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. It's said that we see each other as like, either you belong to left or right.
Right.
We see each other that way and so split that way. And I don't know, like instead of working towards a good goal, like, okay, we all love this country. I'm a citizen here. And then, but it's just like that. I don't know. It brings, I don't know, it gives me think, like, it makes me think, like, okay, what can we do if we can even, if we have like different thoughts and different thinking within even families, then how can we bring people together with the mindset that we all love the country, want to do something good for the country, instead of just like now one side hates the other and vice versa. Another thing we notice is like now people are becoming more biased, like, right, certain groups will only watch Fox News, or certain groups will only watch MSNBC. It's like and then because you hear what you want to hear, and it's, I don't know, I like news being not biased either, just at the middle, say the truth, and then people can be more understanding of each other. I think it would be good that way.
I think you bring up a really good point. My wife tells me, Mark, you sure you watch both? If you want to watch the news or going to, catch the CNN and then catch a little bit of Fox. I mean, you may not agree with one or the other, but it does give you that balance, and you know what the other side is thinking, or have an idea of what's going on that side. And I'll make it really short. I'm going to turn over to you here shortly. And this is just something you probably may not think about, but I just wanted to bring it up. I have a brother-in-law. We kind of grew up together. He's a darker skinned African American, and I noticed that growing up, he had a little harder time, and I had to acknowledge that because I was a fairer or lighter skinned person. I'm just being honest, that I was thought of as a little less threatening. Okay, I'm just being totally honest with you. And I saw some of the things he went through versus some of the things I went through, and it's a scary thing. And people say, well, Mark, people think you're white anyway, or half white. No, I'm not mixed. My mom and dad are both African American, but it was just having, and I'm not saying I'm any better or worse. I'm just saying I had to acknowledge that my experience, because of my color, was different. Even though I'm still African American, he had a slightly different experience growing up. More inclined to get stopped by the police. More inclined, just all those things. Or maybe I got stopped twice, he probably got stopped 6 times. You see what I'm saying? So I had to acknowledge that little subtlety, and we're good friends, but it's just the point that occurred in my life. And it kind of added to my experience of growing up. But anyway, any other thoughts? Last minute thought before I turn control over? We have good on time? Good? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for jumping in there. It really has, this experience has been worth it, to hear everybody's position and their idea. And that is really, I think, what Toastmasters is about. Tracy, you brought it up. It's having that communication from a different culture. And that is how we break those stereotypes down, because when we don't have that interaction, it's very easy to build the stereotype up and say, well, he's bad, he's a boogeyman, he's going to get you. That's very easy to do. But when you have people with different culture, you can bring those stereotypes down. Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Carl, come on up, man.
Called AAA.
Oh, no. Steve, welcome.